Hello children, today we will continue with the third chapter in geography, that is physiography and drainage. So children, in the last video we covered the physiography of India. So in this video we will cover the physiography or the landforms of Brazil. So children, now we will try and understand the physiography of Brazil and see how similar or different Brazil's landform are from India. So children, now you can see this physical map of Brazil in front of you. Through this, we will understand the various landforms of the country. So children, if you look at this map, you can very clearly see that a large part of Brazil is occupied by land, highlands, plateaus and small mountains. Okay, there are highlands, plateaus and small mountains. So children, highlands mean those that are below the mountains. Okay, their height is below the mountains and above the sea level. So children, can you see in the eastern part there is the Brazilian highland? Okay children, towards the eastern part that is a Brazilian highland, and in the northern part there is the Guyana highland. Okay, towards the top part we have the Guyana highlands. So children, Brazil does not have very high or long extending mountains like India, and also except for the North Amazon basin and the upper part of the Paraguay basin in the southwest region, Brazil does not have any more wide plains like India. And also Brazil also has a long coastal plains as India also has, but they are restricted. There are many restrictions which are there, as they cannot follow proper fishing. Okay, there is flooding, that is why. So children, look at this map carefully. So in the north part we can see the Guyana highlands. Eastern part we have the Brazilian highlands. Then in the north and the western part we see the Amazon basin. Towards the south there is Paraguay and Parana basin. Then the central part of Brazil we have the Brazilian shield. So shield is that part that is the oldest part of the continent. So children, like India, Brazil also has 5 major landforms. They are, first is the highlands. Okay, as we saw in the map, like the Guyana highlands and the Brazilian highlands. Second is the Great Escarpment. Escarpment means that whenever there is a mountain near a coastal area, the part of the mountain that faces the sea gets eroded because of the winds and waves. So, with the force of the winds and the waves, that portion of the mountain breaks. So, that part of the mountain is called as the escarped part. It is called as the escarpment. So, at the eastern part of Brazil, near the coastal area, we can see an escarpment. Near the states like Sao Paulo, Porto Alegre and Rio de Janeiro. The third one is the coastal region of Brazil. They have a very beautiful coastal regions. They have coastal parts in the north and the eastern side. The fourth one is the plain region of Brazil, which is near the Amazon basin and near the Paraguay river basin. This again has formed because of the deposition of alluvial soil by the river. And last is the islands of Brazil. There are not many islands in Brazil, but we will learn about in detail in the later parts. So children, now we will see the highlands of Brazil. The southern Brazil is occupied by an extensive plateau. It is differently described as Brazilian highlands or Brazilian shield or even Brazilian plateau. Brazilian and Guyana highlands together form the core of South American continent. The main part of the Guyana highlands is in Venezuela and it extends up to French Guiana. In Brazil, it covers the states of Roraima, Para and Amapá in the north. The lower part of these highlands is found in Brazil. But the highest peak of Brazil, that is Pico de Neblina, is 3014 meters high and lies in the border between Brazil and Venezuela. The regions in the east and south of the Brazilian highlands have an altitude of more than 1000 meters. But in other parts, the altitude is between 500 and 1000 meters. The highlands gradually slope towards north and slopes are not very steep. Okay, they are not that steep, they are gentle. The tributaries of Amazon flowing through this region makes rapids and waterfalls. So children, what are rapids? Rapids are tiny, waterways which the river creates. And waterfalls, you all know, the large waterfalls. Towards the north, the slopes are steep but not abrupt. Abrupt means what? Sudden. A number of rivers take off from the terminal portion of the highlands and flow northwards to meet Atlantic Ocean. Some major rivers like Uruguay, Paraguay and Parana originate from the southern slopes of the highlands and enter Argentina. Its slopes towards the east is steep and it appears in the form of an escarpment. So children, now we will start with the escarpment. So though it occupies a very small area in the country, the nature of its slope and the effect has on the climate is very vast. Okay, it has a very drastic effect on the climatic conditions of Brazil. It is a separate physiographic region in itself. The region in the eastern side of the highlands is demarcated because of the escarpment. Why children? Because of this escarpment, that particular region is totally different than the other parts, okay, beside the highlands. In this region, the altitude of the escarpment, that is the height of the escarpment, is 790 meters. In some regions, the height decreases, it goes down. The escarpment is very steep, particularly from Sao Paulo to Porto Alegre. The escarpment acts as a barrier to the southeast trade winds, giving rise to the rain shadow area in the northern part of the highlands. So children, we have learnt about the orographic rainfalls in 9th standard, right? So this same thing, that is the mountain or the escarpment, the highland that is there, acts as a barrier, and the trade winds, that is a southeast trade winds that is there, cannot go towards there. So that is why it forms a rain shadow area. There is no proper rain. It doesn't receive a proper rain because of this occurrence. So this region towards the north, where it doesn't get rainfall, that area is called as a drought quadrilateral. I'll repeat it again. It is called as the drought quadrilateral. So children, now we will begin with the coastal region. So Brazil has a coastline of about 7,400 kilometers. One may divide that into two parts, that is northern and the eastern coast. Okay, even we have, as India has the eastern and the western coast, Brazil has the northern and the eastern coast. The northern coast extends from Amapá province in the north to Rio de Grande de Norte in the east. This can be called as the North Atlantic coast. From there, the eastern coast extends towards the south. The northern coast is characterized by mouths of many rivers. That means there are many rivers mouth there, including the Amazon. Therefore, this region is a low-lying region. On this coast lies the Marajo Island, Marajo, and São Marcos Bays. Marajo is a large coastal island located between the mouth of river Amazon and river Tocantins. The eastern coast of the river has a number of small rivers. Okay, so the only major river which meets the Atlantic Ocean here is São Francisco. Okay, São Francisco is the only river here that meets the Atlantic Ocean. The Brazilian coast is characterized by a large number of beaches. There are many beaches in the Brazilian coast and sand dune complexes. The Brazilian coast is protected in some areas by coral reefs and atoll islands. So coral reefs, you all know children, it is, the corals that are there, it protects the coast from flooding or from high tides or any destruction. So atoll islands and coral reefs, they help the mainland from not getting destroyed by any type of water, that is high tide, floods, cyclones. It helps it. So now children, we will see the plains. Okay, the plain region of Brazil. The plains in Brazil are confined to two areas. Okay, it is divided into two areas. One is the Amazon basin in the north. You can see in the north. Okay, that is one. And the next is the Paraguay-Paraná source region in the southwest. That is below, southwest. Amazon plains lying between the two highlands form the largest plain. Okay, it forms the largest plain. Which one? That is the Amazon plain of Brazil. Amazon plains lying in the northern part of Brazil generally slopes eastward. It slopes towards the east. The Amazon basin is quite wide in the west, about 1,300 kilometers, and it narrows towards the eastward. So its width is minimum where the Guiana highlands and the Brazilian highlands come closer. That is the Guiana highlands and the Brazilian highlands. It is up to 240 kilometers. As a river approaches the Atlantic, means as a river meets the Atlantic Ocean, the width of the plains, okay, the width of the plain that is there, it increases. These are mostly forested areas. Okay, children, so these areas are not accessible. They are densely, there is a lot of forest area and largely inaccessible due to frequent flooding. So as in India, we are blessed with the North Indian plains, but in Brazil, they are having plains, not much, but they are having it. But even when they have it, it is inaccessible. It means why they are inaccessible? Because of flooding and dense undergrowth. There is a lot of water there, flooding, forest. So that is why people cannot reach out to that place. Most of the Amazon plains are covered by tropical rainforest. The other plains in Brazil are located to the southwestern part of the highlands. They form the source region of Paraguay and Paraná rivers. What is source? Source means from where the river gets its water. Okay, where does it start? Where does that particular river get its source? So this that is the Paraguay Parana. It is a source river. The source region of Paraguay slopes towards the south, while the source region of Parana slopes towards the west side, that is the southwest side. Pantanal is one of the largest wetlands. Now, what is wetland, children? You all know daldal in Hindi? Yeah, in the same way, Pantanal is the largest wetlands in the world. It lies towards the southwest part of the highlands. It is a region of swamps and marshes. You all might have heard these two words, right? Which is where the mud is there and it is very watery and you cannot stand on that place. So Pantanal is the largest wetland in the entire world. So there are swamps and marshes in the northwestern Mato Grosso do Sul in Brazil, and it extends into Argentina too. That is, this swamps and the marshes that are there, it is not just in Brazil, it goes into the country of Argentina too. So children, now we will see the islands of Brazil. So besides the mainland, that is the mainland of Brazil, some islands are also there in Brazil. They can be classified into coastal islands. Okay, one is a coastal island and the second is the marine islands. Most of the coastal islands have formed due to deposition. So you all know, children, even in India, as the plains were formed due to the deposition of the rivers, so these marine islands are formed, or these islands are formed due to the deposition of the rivers, that is the mud, soil, different materials that are deposited by the rivers. Marine islands were a part of mainland. That means earlier in the past, these islands were a part of the mainland of Brazil. But slowly, due to the works of the river and due to the different movements occurring in the earth, these islands, separated from the mainland. They are more than 300 kilometers away. Okay, they are away. This is the kilometer that is they are away from the mainland in the Atlantic Ocean. These islands are mostly rocky. So children, as we saw in the western part of India, okay, that is the western coastal region of India, as they are rocky. So these islands in Brazil are rocky. There are many rocks that are found here, and they are the top of the submerged mountain. So children, what are submerged mountain? Submerged mountain is a landform of the water. Okay, that means the entire mountain is inside the water. Okay, so the top part that is outside, that can be visible outside the water. So these islands that are there in Brazil are the top part of the mountain that is submerged into the water. That is, the lower part of the mountain is inside the water. Only the peak or the upper part of the mountain can be seen. The islands near the coast of the South Atlantic Ocean are coral islands, and they are called atolls. So again, I hope you all know what is atolls. As I told you, in India also we are having atoll islands. Brazil also has atoll islands. Atoll means what? It is a ring shaped. That means outside the island also there is water that is surrounded, and in the center also we can see there is water. So it is a ring shaped island which is having water in the interior parts also as well as the outside part also. Those type of islands are called as the atoll islands. Okay children, so here we have completed with the physiography of Brazil. So in the next video we will see the drainage, okay, that is the river systems of India and Brazil.